Hello. I've been asked several times now since I did the satsang video number 98 based on the Trinity, which was a revelation to me, and it was wonderful, and it's still with me very, very strong. And after I cited that, quite a few people have written me and asked me, well, now tell me, how do I live it? How do I start living the knowledge after hearing about it? Okay, well, first of all, there are two ways in which you can start living the truth, but these two ways require continual exploration. And it also depends upon, and this is where your patience is important, is on what level you are actually understanding what is being presented. Okay, but these are the two ways. Okay? First, the most important knowing, inner knowing that you can have is a consistent revelation of the difference between being and human. You are a human being. But it's something that initially we never gave an importance to, not realizing that the whole secret lies in those two words, human being. Truly. Now, the thing about the human being is that the human and being are totally different. In fact, opposite each other. Two polarities. But this is the interesting part, is that as you get to know that the human part of you, which is so conditioned, which all you hear about, all you read about in your newspaper and magazines, psychology, enneagrams, astrology, whatever you want to call it, it's all based for the human, to serve the human. And it's understandable because it's the human that lives daily life, however illusory and dreamlike it is. So we have to know that, but we also have to know that all we ever want and all we ever truly are is the being, because it is the being that is appearing as the human. So while the human seems to be born and seems to die, the being, which you truly are and playing the part of human, has never been born and will never die. Do you see the opposite? Another fact which is very, very important is that the human lives in time and is very conscious of time. Is constantly remembering the past and constantly going into the future, thinking that time is going by, because all it is just the earth rotating around the sun, creating the semblance of time through its motion. In truth, the being knows no time. In fact, time is a total and absolute illusion. The moment you realize being, to be, just like Shakespeare said, to be or not to be, that is the question. And of course the answer is, if there is an answer, unless you're ready for it, is to be. Okay, now having explored this every day, seeing it everywhere, how the human and the being are totally different. People think, life is crazy and I'm going crazy and something is wrong and everything is meaningless. In a way, yes, it is true. But you're only seeing the human part. You're not seeing the big picture, which is being. Now, the moment you start feeling, understanding, getting the knowing between human and being, even minutely, something else happens. The Trinity, which is, the Trinity is this Son, Holy Spirit, and Father. Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Okay. The Son is the me, the human part. The Holy Spirit is the heart, is the soul of you, is the being of you, which is eternal, timeless. But the moment you start really feeling and experiencing this, the moment you start seeing it everywhere without judging one thing or another, because what you are is really playing the human role, then you start seeing the Father. The Father is invisible. You cannot see the Father. The Father is totally non-existent for the human. But once you start activating the being part in you, something comes alive and you begin to see the Father everywhere. You see the Father in a flower, in your child, in your wife's eyes, and in your own eyes. You begin to see the beauty, the things that are creative. You start becoming totally alive and creative in a way you never thought was possible. This is how you start living truth. You start seeing subtle changes happening within you. That's so beautiful. But you see, there's no point in me telling you all this until you are willing to explore daily life and to see what is beyond the human. The human, yes, it's all suffering, it's all pain, because it's all unreal. It's constantly changing. How can the real be changing? What is real has no beginning and no end. It's unchanging. It is called the Father. But the very nature of that Father is this. And this is the most beautiful thing you can ever find. It is unconditional love. Not only perfect love, but unconditional love. And when you see it in great men, in great women, in great people who live from being, you begin to see their love, how loving they are. And when you see this love, which is part of the Father, which I called last satsang, the warm, comfortable blanket, even when you're freezing and cold and uncomfortable, is because despite what you're going through, despite what is happening, you're just being tested, really. It's just what you need at the moment to give you spiritual maturity, until that time when you begin to see the love that you are, the beauty that you are. There is no sin, there is no wrong. Now, but when I say that, you see, the human doesn't understand that, but the being knows it to be true. Because how can wrong exist when the Father is unconditional love? You know, you might say, but how can there be no wrong when I think about the man who murdered my child? This is a true case, incidentally, of a woman whose daughter was bludgeoned to death with a bottle by a very wealthy man who got away scot-free after killing her. And the mother resolved to kill the man who killed her daughter. And she shot him. And she said, well, I did what was coming to him. Was it right? What is wrong? See, the point is, was Hitler wrong in what he did? You see, the word wrong doesn't exist. Why? Because when the mother killed her daughter's assailant, she thought she was doing right. It's what he deserved. So to her was wrong, it was simply ignorant. So there is no wrong, there's only ignorance from the human side. When Hitler was imprisoned, he wrote the Mein Kampf. He became convinced that the economic problem Germany is going through and all the starvation and all the suffering is due to the Jews, who are controlling the economic situation in Germany. Well, he resolved to get rid of the whole race. And after he kept on looking into this insane idea, it was no longer insane. By the time he got out of prison, he was totally resolved to carry it through. And so the Jews became his scapegoat. to attain his goal. But, you see, in his mind, he thought he was right. By getting rid of the Jews, he was going to put Germany back on its feet. So, in his insane mind, and it was insane, he wasn't wrong in his own mind. It was just total ignorance of the law of love, of oneness, of non-separation. And so he destroyed himself eventually after 5 years, the Second World War. He created the Third Reich, and he thought it was going to exist for 1,000 years. But nothing can exist except being. Even when we think we are living daily life in this body, with deeper exploration we will discover that is not really living life at all. The real life is being. It is who you really are. It is the total picture. It is wholeness. It is not personal and it is not individual. But it is always you, and that is the key. You are living life, but who is this you? And you'll find that no matter what you explore, that is not real about you. You will always be there. And when everything is taken out, you remain, which is being. Okay, now how much you've understood is up to you, up to your own consciousness. Namaste.